My name is Judge Dan McCaffrey. I am a judge in Philadelphia County, and as I mentioned earlier, I just found out about this the other day, and I decided to travel up here in the middle of a jury trial so I could be here with you today just to kind of spread the word a little bit about who we are and what we do. Very simply put, if anybody here is not familiar with what the Masons do, it's very simple. Masons make good men better. If you want to know anything about the Masons, ask a Mason, and we'd love to have you come in, and we'd love to have you talk a little bit about what we do and how we go about doing it, okay? We are a brotherhood and a sisterhood in every sense of the word, and we stick together, and we promote Masonic values and Masonic order. As mentioned, I'm a judge in the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas, and I'll get right into my experience. Very simply put, I'm a 1982 graduate of a small Catholic high school in Northeast Philadelphia called Father Judge High School. I am the youngest of 7, born to an Irish Catholic immigrant family from Belfast, Northern Ireland. My family came to this country to escape religious persecution. My father, an Irish Catholic, was beaten into a coma in sectarian violence in the 1950s. He came to this country to make a better life for his children, and I'm proud to say, as the youngest of 7, each and every one of my father's children graduated from college and became productive members of our society, including a member on the Supreme Court and myself, who's a judge in Philadelphia County. When I graduated high school in 1982, I joined the United States Army instead of going right to college. I served 3 years active duty with the United States military. I was with the 1st Cavalry Division. I was one of 40 soldiers worldwide selected to attend the United States Military Academy Prep School at West Point. I did that. I attended Temple University on a veteran scholarship, and I graduated in 2 years. I attended Temple Law School and a veteran scholarship. In 1991, when I was graduated, I went into the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office where I represented victims of crime, and I proudly represented victims of crime in the city of Philadelphia. I spent about 6 years. That's when I start dancing. Hold on. Sorry, anyway. Let me pull this up. You're too short. I don't have any rhythm either. So in any event, I was a prosecutor for about 6 years. I left the DA's office in 1997 and went to a small little firm in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. I did commercial litigation, and I worked for the Democratic Party for in excess of 16, 17 years. I was elected judge in Philadelphia in 2013, and since that time I presided well over 150 jury trials, probably 1,000 bench trials, and more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, I have written over 150 opinions to the Superior Court, and I've been overturned 3 times. 2 of those cases went to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court reinstated my appeals, my opinions, and actually overturned the Superior Court. I'll be very simple, and I'll be right to the point. You're going to hear from a lot of great candidates tonight, and I tell everybody this because I've been saying it for 30, 40 years. There's 2 things you need to look for when you're talking about candidates. You need to look for somebody with a good heart, and you need to look for somebody with a good head. A good head's very simple. You want somebody who by training, by education, by qualification is qualified for the office that they're seeking. If you want to know about my qualifications, take a look at what the Bar Association had to say about me. The 14,000-member Pennsylvania Bar Association interviewed every candidate looking to run for Superior Court, and they only gave one candidate a highly recommended, and that was me. More importantly, to this particular group, look for people with good hearts. Look for people who represent you and represent your values. Tony and I were just talking about Philadelphia, and I have it a little bit unfair because people talk about what changes are you going to make. Philadelphia is so far ahead of the curve of the rest of the court system in Pennsylvania that it's not even worth talking about. I have people in my courtroom on a daily basis talking about the MacArthur grants. We've eliminated cash bail and went to a risk assessment to make sure that people from minority communities aren't affected by cash bail and an ability to post bail. But more importantly than that, Philadelphia court system is at the forefront of just about every positive change in social justice in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. 6 months ago, our supervising judge, Leon Tucker, came to me because we had a problem, a prolific problem with detainers, individuals who were in custody, and he asked me to come up with a specific program. I created a program called the Detainer Fast Track Program to get individuals who were in custody on detainers. In 6 months, we were able to get 50% of those individuals in custody to trial and out of custody in only 6 months. That's an epidemic. So if you're looking for what we're going to do on the Superior Court, understand something, and I'll leave you with this. About 2-3 weeks ago, I went to Pennsylvania Democratic State Committee, and we've all heard the statement, Republicans fall in line, Democrats want to fall in love. Well, Pennsylvania Democrats fell in love with me. I was endorsed by Pennsylvania Democratic Party on the first ballot. I was the #1 vote getter by 279 votes. We also endorsed an African-American female, first time, second time in 2 years. Amanda Green Hawkins, she's endorsed as well to run on the Democratic ticket along with me because there's 2 openings. Right now, the Superior Court, there's 15 judges, and we handle all of the appeals from all of the trial judges across Pennsylvania. We are directly below the Supreme Court. There are 15 openings. There's 2 openings on that spot. There's 11 women and 3 men. Right now, it's 8 Republican and 6 Democrats. In 2015, we elected 3 Democrats to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and one of the first decisions that came in front of them was the unconstitutional Republican orchestrated gerrymandering case. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court undid that, and we elected 4 women from southeastern Pennsylvania, including the Lehigh Valley's own Susan Wild. If we put 2 Democrats on the Superior Court, keep this in mind, this will be the first time in over 30 years where the Democrats have controlled both the Supreme Court and the Superior Court. And that means something, ladies and gentlemen, because it's not just who you elect, it's not just your experience, as I said earlier. Good heart, good head. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the type of people you elect to those particular positions. Because you want somebody up there with you representing your values, and I wouldn't be running if I wasn't that person. So I want to thank you for your time. Any questions?
Does anybody have a question for the judge?
You want to ask me about my dance moves? Thank you again, I appreciate it. Oh, man in the back.
Hey, what are your feelings on the criminal justice as far as our young black youth and young black people in general? And please don't misunderstand me. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not here to cause no trouble about black and white because I'm not that way. I just want to know because there's a problem with it, and it seems like it's the biggest elephant in the room, but nobody wants to talk about it.
What is it you're asking specifically?
What are your plans to help it get better or to change the rules? Because I've always said if the culture isn't changed, the problem doesn't get changed. So what do you plan on doing to help those who are incarcerated for the same problems that one of our white counterparts have, but we get more time?
Well,
Things of that nature. I mean, we know that's true, right? Or am I just blowing smoke?
No, you're right about
it. So my
it.
question to you is, how can we rectify it? How can we change it, man, so we can start looking at each other from a standpoint of being real with each other instead of all the hypocrisy?
Your question is it's a very important question. Unfortunately, and I'll be upfront with you about it since I'm being filmed, you're asking that question to a sitting judge. Judges, pursuant to the rules of the canons, are not allowed to answer those types of questions. Right. Your question's an important question, but let me answer it very simple. A judge's job is to adjudicate every case that comes before them fairly and adequately, okay? That means you've got to make sure that everybody is aware who they come in front of you. Every participant across Pennsylvania is aware of the judicial resources and the resources available to them to make sure they get quality representation at every juncture and every proceeding. You've got to approach every case. I said this 2 weeks ago because we were in a debate in Pennsylvania, and they were asking about all the big cases I've handled. And in all honesty, I tell people this story, and it's the God's honest truth. I've handled some of the biggest cases in Pennsylvania. I was one of the top prosecutors in the DA's office. I was one of the best commercial litigators in Pennsylvania. People in Philadelphia look at me and say, "What? Are you out of your mind? Why would you take a judgeship 6 years ago?" I'll tell you a story, and I'll leave you with this, just so you understand who I am and what I'm all about. When I left the DA's office, I was used to being in the Philadelphia Daily News and the Philadelphia Inquirer. I was on the news every night, people interviewing me with the top high-profile cases. I went to a small little law firm with 5 lawyers, and one of the partners handed me a file. And he said to me, "I need you to handle this case. It's a small claims case." I looked at him and said, "Small claims case?" I said, "You know who I am? I thought I was a hotshot." I went down to court. I won the case, of course. I really couldn't be bothered with the case. And I went back to the office, and the partner called me in and said, "Sit down." I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Well, the client wasn't too happy with you." And I said, "What do you mean the client wasn't happy with me?" I said, "He just got one of the best lawyers in the city of Philadelphia to handle a small claims case." And he said, "Dan, understand something." He said, "To you, that's a small claims case." He says, "But to him, that was the most important case he had because it was the only case he had." And that was my first year in civil practice. And you know something? That stuck with me for the rest of my career. More importantly, it stuck with me every single time I hear a case. No matter who comes in front of me, and if you want to know anything about me and the type of person I am, ask the lawyers in Philadelphia, ask the police in Philadelphia, ask anybody, ask the Bar Association. I treat everybody with dignity. I treat everybody with respect. I don't care if you're a defendant. I don't care if you're a victim. I don't care if you're a defendant's family or victim's family. Everybody who comes in my courtroom is treated with dignity and treated with respect. You ever hear the old expression, if you should be the change that you want to see in the world? That's how a judge has to act, because judges, unfortunately, can't give you a broad-based policy position. Is there racism in our system? Absolutely. And you know why? Because there's racists in our system. Is there problems in our system with anti-Semitism? Sure. You know why? Because there's anti-Semites in the system. You've got to look at every individual and every case that comes in front of you like it's the most important case in the world and treat everybody with dignity and respect. That's why you and everybody else in this room has got to look at these people and evaluate their credibility, and more importantly, talk to them about who they are and what they're all about. I started off my speech by mentioning my family's background. My family, Northern Ireland, Irish Catholics. You know anything about Northern Irish Ireland, Catholics in Northern Ireland? We are a distinct, disadvantaged minority in Northern Ireland. When my father came to this country, he became a union organizer. My mother was a custodial worker, a cleaning lady for the school district of Philadelphia for 26 years. You know what they taught me from the time I was 4? To stand up and fight for people's rights. That's why I went in the Army. That's why I went into the law. I can tell you right now, my father started a group called Irish Northern Aid in 1968 in Philadelphia. We were protesting for civil rights in the 60s with African Americans in Philadelphia, and for civil rights for Irish Catholics in Northern Ireland from the time I was a kid. People say to me, how are you so dug in with the NAACP, the black clergy in Philadelphia who's already endorsed me? It's because these are people I've known since I was a kid. These are issues I fought for since I was a kid. This is the reason why I gave up a very lucrative practice of law to become a judge and a public servant, because I believe in what I do, and I believe in the job, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So the answer to your question is judges can't answer those kind of broad-based questions, but you need to look into those people
I
before you
didn't hear
support
you
them.
as a judge, you were my bad.
That's okay.
I respect your answer.
All right. Just so you know. Anything else?